Hi there, my name's Bruce. This is my channel. I guess you gathered that. Anyway, if you take a moment and subscribe, I'd be happy with that. Really, I'm on a subscriber drive, a subscription drive. I'd like to get to 600 subscribers. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but eventually, maybe in the next 100 years, it will. But anyway, I'm going to talk about, join me for a minute. I'm in Canada, it's no secret. So Canada has provinces. The provinces are similar to states in the United States, but they're not the same. The provinces have governance. So the governor, or the head of the province, is the premier. Under the Canadian system of government and our constitution, there's no one, if you happen to be Canadian, that has more influence over your life than the premier of the province. It's breathtaking. The premier has spectacular powers. And I'm standing here in the province of Ontario, and we have a premier with spectacular powers. Not magic powers in the sense of, wave a magic wand, there you go, but by fiat. And by fiat means that by decree, by decision, by whatever, you can do. The premier of the province can do basically anything they want. Now, we have a problem. Our problem is similar to some problems that exist in the United States. They come for similar reasons, and one of the problems that we're facing right now is that we have a crisis of opioid addiction, opioid deaths. So last year in the province of Ontario, there were approximately 2,650 people. That's approximately the official number. I think the real number is 2,637 people died from an opioid overdose. That's a big number. That's spectacular. It's like 50 people a week, 60 people a week. That's huge. And the thing about a number like that, and that's the reported number. That's the official number. And you have to be pretty naive to think that that's the real number. The real number is certainly higher than that. That's troubling to me. And it's a big number, and you kind of get sucked into numbers. But if you recall the movie, there's a movie made by Steven Spielberg called Schindler's List. It's a movie about the Holocaust, and a movie about a guy, Oskar Schindler, who was behaving heroically in the midst of awful circumstance. So Mr. Steven Spielberg is making this movie, and the real horror of it tends to get washed away in the gray palette of numbers. And you get lost in it, and you kind of dehumanizes you or the subject matter. That's a reality. It's a bad situation. So this idea of 2,637 people are having died, 2,500 having died last year in the province of Ontario, opioid poisoning. That is harrowing, but it's a number. Big number. Now, let's skip the number for a second. I'll talk about my friend Mike. I knew Mike for, how long? 15 years. I knew Mike. Mike was a hard-working guy. He was a stand-up fella. He was great. I enjoyed chatting with him in the mornings at our coffee shop, and I enjoyed chatting with him often. And we did a little bit of work together, Mike and I. And then one day Mike disappeared because Mike died of an opioid overdose. I didn't know that Mike had an addiction to opioids. I didn't know anything about this. This was something I did not know about Mike. But this is what happened. Mike died. Mike left behind a family and friends, and it count me amongst friends. And I have some other people that I know well that have similarly died from opioid overdose. There you go. And then a takeaway for me, like a lesson that I learned was that, man, you just don't know. Okay, you don't know the path that a person comes to having this problem, and generally it's a legitimate path. You wake up and you have an injury at workplace. This is what happened with Mike. You have an injury at workplace, and you need medication in order to heal. I myself, at one point, I was in the hospital. Not from an injury at work, but I was in the hospital. I had surgery, and the nurse came to me and she said, "Would you like some drugs?" I said no. The reason I said no is because of just fear. I was going to tough it out. I was frightened. And the nurse looked me straight in the eye and she said, "You're obviously in tremendous pain. If you're going to heal, you have to move. Before you can move, you have to step over the pain. This is a measure that's going to allow you to move. It's going to allow you to heal." That was her sales pitch, and it worked. And I took her advice and the doctor's advice, and that's it. But the drugs I took were opioids, and it's the same as everybody. Not the same as everybody, but you think it's this thing that happened before the war on drugs, and that nonsense, demonized a lot of things. And one of the problems is it demonized people. So anyway, I was talking about the premier of the province. So the experts, meaning people that study this in a serious way, academics, healthcare professionals, people that on the forefront of social work, experts, non-dogmatic experts say that opioid treatment centers, but safe injection, the capacity to make your drugs safe, to consume your drugs in an environment that's supervised, where if you're going to overdose or have a problem, there's trained professionals that are going to help you. This stuff works. And getting back to the Premier of the province, the pandemic was on. So the Premier of the province was having a press conference. That guy, he's a large gentleman. He's similar age to me, 50 something, and he looked straight in the camera and he said, "What is one life worth? What is one life worth?" And he was referring to the pandemic. This was before he kind of stepped over that. But this idea is, what is one life worth? So the safe injection sites, they save lives demonstrably. Every person that studies this is an advocate of safe injection sites. Remember, 2,600 deaths, the province of Ontario, in 2023, and we're on track this year to surpass that. And the 2023 number was about 6 or 7% greater than the official number, greater than the 2022 number. That's horrible, okay? Horrible. And so, but for whatever reason, the Premier of Ontario decided, in his wisdom, to close safe injection sites. And they put up a bunch of nonsense. A bunch of nonsense says we don't want them within 200 meters of schools. Yeah, as if that makes a difference. We don't want this. We don't want that. We don't want whatever. What they don't want is to offend a base of support that he has politically, that perhaps hasn't gone through a process to come to the realization that experts matter and people matter, and this works. Something works. So I'm asking the Premier of the province of Ontario, I'm asking the governor of your state, I'm asking every person of influence in our society to embrace the idea that if a person dies, that's it. It's over. They're dead. And we have to stop that, prevent that, end that, full stop. And in this matter, with respect to the opioid crisis that is real and present, what works is safe injection sites and a safe drug supply. There you go. Please. So anyway, I get it. In terms of content, this is not the most riveting thing necessarily, but my channel is about public policy and economics, and there's nothing more relevant to economics and public policy than human life. Okay, so that's it. So the Premier of the province of Ontario is Premier Doug Ford, and that gentleman has lost, noise alert, that gentleman has lost the plot on this issue and maybe on a couple other issues, but it's not about the person, it's about the policy, it's about lives. And Doug Ford, Premier Doug Ford, he said it well. He said, what is a human life worth? Yeah, did he live up to that statement? Not really, but he could. He could live up to that statement. So please, Premier Doug Ford, people go to school for a reason. People study in university for a reason. People are granted doctorates for a reason. Research papers are vetted by peer review committees for a reason. And that reason is not to satisfy the base instinct. Okay, the reason is because academia and academic review is a solid path towards policy, and the best thing tends to win out in the end. But the sadness is that people are dying at a tremendous rate while this is taking place. That's it. My name's Bruce. This is my channel. If you can please subscribe, that'd be great. I don't know if this topic was necessarily the best sales pitch for garnering subscribers, but regardless, thank you very much. Bye now.